into No BS Fantasy Football, and welcome to the first round of the Fantasy Football Playoffs. And I know how much work it's been to get here, from the draft prep, the waiver ads, the trades, the weekly start-sit preparation, and setting your lineup just to get to this moment. And I'm going to honor that today with a straightforward, no BS start and sit video. We're going to cover the quarterbacks, running backs, wide receiver, and tight ends. Then we're going to have a special section on the Colts, the entire Colts team after losing Daniel Jones. Then we're going to close it out with my take of the week. And last week, we said Lamar Jackson was going to be very startable, and Zay Flowers was going to be a huge part of that. Both players absolutely went off, so you're not going to want to miss that. Before we get to the QBs, if you have any specific start-sit questions for your team, drop them down in the comments. And subscribers, I appreciate your support of the page. That's how we keep making these videos, so I will be prioritizing your questions first. And of course, if you haven't subscribed yet, you can do so by hitting that subscribe button, turning on those notifications, and let's jump to the quarterbacks. Our first quarterback to avoid is going to be Bo Nix. We look at his last four matchups, he really hasn't been startable. And the one biggest mistake we can make in the playoffs is looking at a player's best weeks. We see the 40 points, the 25 points he had against some really easy matchups earlier this year, and we just hope to get back there. We're living on the past, when in reality, the last 4 weeks, he's been unstartable, even with a rushing touchdown last week. Still not a top 12 quarterback, so he needs to stay on the bench. But a quarterback you can start is Brock Purdy. First thing I want to point out is they're coming off the bye week. This team was so injured. We have the rest of the wide receivers looking solid, and this week they faced the Tennessee Titans, number 24 against quarterbacks. So even though he hasn't been amazing in these last few weeks, he's been scoring touchdowns. He has a healthier team coming out of the bye, and those games were against some of the toughest possible matchups. Arizona, top 12. Carolina, top 12. Cleveland, top 12. This week, he gets a top 12 easiest matchup, and he's going to show up in the first round. Unfortunately, the dream run for Jacoby Brissett stops here. And I've been in on him as a start every single week, including last week when he played the Rams. He's just been that good. But this week against Houston, we need to leave him on the bench. Houston has been dominating the quarterback position. Doesn't really matter who they face lately. They have been crushing them, crushing their fantasy points. And with the easy matchups he's faced or hard matchups, Brissett has been okay. But this week, that will change with Houston's dominant, suffocating defense. I would look in other direction. But start Lamar Jackson. We're going back to the well on this one. Last week, he was my take of the week. After 3 weeks in a row, under 10 fantasy points, he drops 22 points against the Steelers. I kind of saw that coming as a Steelers fan. And this week, he gets an even better matchup against the Bengals. I know he didn't do well against them a few weeks ago, but he looked a little bit healthier against the Steelers. We saw a little bit more of that running coming back. He had that rushing touchdown. It seems like things are finally clicking a little bit more for this team. So I am going to be starting Lamar Jackson this week against the Bengals. And a quarterback we've been reading like a book is Caleb Williams. Check out these matchups. Every single difficult matchup against the Raiders, who aren't even that difficult, the Saints, the Ravens, the Vikings, again, the Eagles, the Green Bay Packers, he has been bad against good matchups. And go figure, this week he's facing the Browns, another difficult matchup. We have to leave Caleb Williams on the bench. Now on to the running backs, and the first sit is going to be Ramondre Stevenson. I like Henderson a little bit better. I see both as risky option this week, but I'm definitely not starting Ramondre. We look at his snap share. It was amazing in this week 6, week 7, week 8, but then in week 13, he comes back 58%. We saw 31% in week 12. Now, he should be feeling fully healthy. He's coming off the bye week. Perfect timing for the bye week for the Patriots, but it is concerning that he does not have the volume. And with Henderson coming off the bye, that's where we see rookies start to step it up. So this could be the true Henderson takeover week. Now, I'm not projecting that 100%. I still have some concerns about Henderson, but even more concerns about Ramondre. There's absolutely nothing pointing in the positive direction here. And if you like this type of analysis, looking at the bye weeks, looking at rookies improved, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Let's talk about our next starting running back, and that's going to be Woody Marks. I want to point out something really exciting that you can see in the Walter Picks app. You can get that in the description with code NOBS, get a free trial there, and it has the red zone work. And you can see that Woody Marks has been one of the best in the entire league over the last 5 weeks in terms of red zone opportunities. You can see 4, 3, 6, 3, 5 red zone opportunities, 2 red zone targets, 7 total red zone opportunities last week against the Chiefs. And this week, the Arizona Cardinals, extremely easy matchup. They are horrible against the running back. So even if Nick Chubb is in this game, Woody Marks is still going to have that easy matchup. He's still going to be getting that red zone work, and that's going to allow him to dominate and be a great start for you in this first round of playoff. But avoid David Montgomery. He may look somewhat startable, somewhat reliable with a 13-point, then a 14-point week, but I will point out both those weeks he had touchdowns. Now he heads into the gauntlet against the Rams, the Steelers, the Vikings, 3 amazing teams against running backs, especially against the Rams. This is a classic Jahmyr Gibbs game. This is where Jahmyr Gibbs, even though it's a hard matchup, can still dominate. But Dave Montgomery, between the tackles, he will absolutely need a touchdown just to deliver an average week. And when we're in the fantasy football playoffs, I think we need a little bit more, because if he doesn't score a touchdown, he's giving you 6 points, 4 points, 7 points. That may be enough to lose you a week, especially since you're playing another playoff team. I've gotten a few start-sit questions about RJ Harvey, normally comparing him to some other great players, and I'm here to say he is a must-start. Not only a must-start, but a league winner. With J.K. Dobbins out, look at the production he's had. And I know he's faced some easier matchups, and this week, that's where a lot of the questions are coming from. Well, he's not facing the Commanders. He's not facing the Raiders, who are horrible against running backs. He's facing Green Bay, who's really great against running backs. But I do want to point out the targets he had in this game. 6 targets in that game. That is amazing floor. Look at the red zone attempts as well. Again, the Walter Picks app has it right here for us. Red zone attempts, 5, 3 goal line carries, 4 rushing attempts, 1 goal line carry, 2 targets. He's getting so much red zone work. That's one of the reasons I also don't love Bo Nix, because Bo Nix is giving the rushing touchdowns to RJ Harvey. And again, these were easier teams, but Green Bay is going to be a tougher matchup, but it's not too tough to leave RJ Harvey on the bench. Our final RB sit before we jump to the wide receivers is DeAndre Swift. And the main thing I want to watch out for here is the snap share, is the split with Ramondre Stevenson. 57% snap share. That's about par of the course he's seen over the last few weeks. We see the rush share is dropping significantly from where it was in the middle of the season. 38%, 40%. You know, Caleb Williams is taking some of the rush share as well, but also Kyle Monangai, who I don't love in this game either. I don't know if either of these guys are great starts. Now, if you have to, there is some upside. Whoever scores the touchdown could deliver that 20-point week, that 14-point week, that 15-point week. But with Kyle Monangai taking some of the goal line carries away, that is a huge risk for DeAndre Swift this week, who is facing a tough matchup against the Cleveland Browns. Our first wide receiver sit. And don't forget, we got the tight ends, the Colts breakdown, and the take of the week coming up after this. But we got Ladd, McConkey, and all of the Chargers wide receivers, actually. This is a group sit for the Chargers wide receivers. Amari Hampton is back. Manny Vidal looks pretty good as well. Those guys could be stealing your touchdowns. So that's number one, taking away some of the upside. But in this matchup against the Chiefs, it is a tough matchup. These teams know each other well. He's just not getting enough targets. Nobody really is in this offense. Justin Herbert is dealing with some injuries to that hand, maybe some turnover problems. The Chiefs are going to be going after that as well. This offense overall, it's not as healthy as it really needs to be. The passing attack is not where it needs to be. Certainly not where it was earlier in the season. I don't think really anyone, aside maybe Omar and Hampton, is trustworthy enough to put in your starting lineup this week. But someone who is proving trustworthy, Jacoby Myers. Look at these games with the Jaguars. 15 points, 21 points, 14 points. Has a touchdown in the last few weeks. I want to also point out the targets, 6, 10 targets last week against the Colts. Now this week, going against the Jets, that is a little bit of a tougher matchup. It's not going to be as easy, but if you can get the average 6 to 8 targets, that is reliable enough for you. And when you scroll over to the red zone opportunities, you can see here he's gotten some targets in the red zone. 2 easy targets, 1 easy target, 2 easy target. He even got a goal line carry, 2 rush attempts in this game. Anytime they're getting a wide receiver rush attempts on the goal line, that is the type of player you want in your starting lineup. Unfortunately, we have another team bench here, the Bears. I already talked about Caleb Williams in the quarterback section of this video, so if you use the timestamps, you may want to go back and check that one out, why he has not been good against good teams. But here in the wide receiver room, we've seen Rome Odunze really hasn't been that good since the start of the season. The first few weeks when he was going nuclear with touchdown after touchdown after touchdown after touchdown. These last few weeks, not a lot of catches, not a lot of targets. He's dealing with injury, and if he's not in the game, we didn't see Luther Burden or DJ Moore become startable. Just overall hurt this offense. That's going to hurt DeAndre Swift, who we talked about in the running back section as well. This Bears offense overall, facing a tough Cleveland defense, is not someone you want to be trusting when you're in the fantasy football playoff. But I definitely want to start Wan'Dale Robinson. I'm going to show you just one stat that makes me want to start this guy every single time, and it's looking at the snap percentage right here. A snap percentage is absolutely insane. With 100% last week, he's had a couple weeks at 100% snap percentage, but check out the targets: 11, 9, 14, 8. The targets are insane with Jameis Winston or Jackson Dart does not matter. This is certainly a player coming off the bye. The team's going to be looking a little bit healthier. They're a little bit banged up this season. I know they already lost some guys for the season, but even the guys playing, we're really counting on them. This is the type of target share that you want to trust in the fantasy football playoffs. And of course, if he can score that touchdown, he can produce a huge week. Now, our final wide receiver before we get to the tight ends, and I really like tight ends overall this week, but we're going to talk starts and sits for them next. But first, Emeka Egbuka. I'm going to say he's a sit this week. It's just so unfortunate because all the metrics that we look at, the eye test says this guy should be good for fantasy football. We look at the targets and the snap share, 80%, 90%. 90% is what you're looking for an elite wide receiver. The route rate, 90%. Again, looking for that for an elite wide receiver. The targets, 13, 9, 8, 8, 9. Target share, 30%. This should be good enough to be an amazing wide receiver. But what we've seen over the last 4 weeks, 9.6 points, 8 points, 3.5 points. He does get a little bit better matchup against the Falcons, but he's probably going to be covered by AJ Terrell. That's going to be a tough matchup. So if you made the playoffs somehow with Emeka Egbuka, I would try if you can. If you have other options like a Wan'Dale Robinson, like a Jacoby Myers, I would try to leave Emeka Egbuka on your bench. First tight end we're going to avoid is Hunter Henry. We are going to talk about Tyler Warren, by the way, in that Colts section. But Hunter Henry here, we have to sit him, even though he's been good this season, because he's playing the Buffalo Bills. They're just the #1 defense in the league against tight ends. We saw he played Buffalo earlier this season in a game the Patriots won. So that was a good game for the Patriots. He only had 2 catches. He only had 6.6 fantasy points. That's really not good enough. Plus, with how well Buffalo has been against tight ends overall, we need to leave Henry on the bench. But someone we have to start, someone that looks like a league winner, which we talked about one other player like that in the RB section of this video, is Harold Fannin Jr. 8 catches, 114 yards, a touchdown. Touchdowns the last 2 weeks with Shedeur Sanders at quarterback. And the Browns, by the way, their rookies are looking amazing across the board. Their running backs, their defensive players, their tight ends. We'll see if Shedeur Sanders can keep it up as well. But this may be a legendary draft class for the Browns. And the Browns haven't really had that maybe ever, or at least in a long, long time. Not since I've been alive. But very exciting for this Browns team. Very exciting for Browns fans to finally have some amazing rookies to build around. This seems like an actual really solid building block for this team. But Harold Fannin Jr., good matchup this week against the Bears. He's seeing great target share this last week. He had 11 targets, 5, 6, 5, 7 the weeks before. For a tight end, those are solid numbers, but this last week showed his explosiveness, and he has to be in starting lineups. We'll be quick on this one, but I'm avoiding TJ Hockenson. He's had 2 good weeks in a row, but this week in week 13, he did not have 9. He did not have JJ McCarthy at quarterback. Week 14, he did. He did score a touchdown, but he only had 2 catches. You see the previous weeks with JJ McCarthy, 2 points, 7 points, 5.9 points. It's just not good enough for TJ Hockenson to be trustworthy on a playoff team. Now, someone you can get off the waiver wire in many leagues. Up to yesterday, he was available in about 85% of leagues. Isaiah Likely. He's almost scored a couple touchdowns these last few weeks. In week 13, at the goal line, he fumbled. In week 14, he almost had 2 touchdowns, but one of them, as a Steelers fan, I don't think it's really a catch, but they have been calling that a catch all season long, so I do not think that was the right call in the game. So as a Steelers fan, I was like, yeah, I'll take it, but I definitely thought, based on how they've been calling it all year, that should have been a catch. If he had touchdowns in either one of those games, there's no way he's even still on the waiver wire. There's no way people are even debating whether to start this guy. He's had good target share, he's had great red zone targets, and he has the Cincinnati Bengals matchup. They are by far the easiest possible matchup against tight ends. I expect Andrews to do pretty well, but I especially like Likely in his big play ability and the red zone opportunity he's seen the last few weeks. Welcome to the Colts Breakdown. Let me guys know in the comment section if you like these specific team breakdowns when there's a lot of news about one team. I'm going to try to do this in the next few weeks of the playoffs, so make sure to subscribe because we're going to keep making these videos. We're going to start with Michael Pittman Jr. He is #1 on the wide receivers, the only one I would consider starting. We saw in this game where they lost Daniel Jones, he still had a great week. 9 catches, 79 yards. He's the ball dominant guy. He's the guy that can get open, the most polished wide receiver on this team. We saw 12 targets, and I don't really care who the quarterback is. He will be the main target. Now, I do want to point out, specifically against Seattle, that's an extremely difficult matchup. But overall this season, Michael Pittman Jr. has been really great. I mean, look at all the green he's had this season. Yeah, he's had a few down games, 2.3 against Houston. Pretty much everybody has been bad against Houston. Atlanta, tough matchup. AJ Terrell, Arizona, Denver, 8 points. Pat Surtain, tough matchup. Rest of the season, he's been pretty amazing. So I am going to kind of trust him a little bit more than the rest of these Colts options, even though he is a tough matchup and we're not really sure who's going to be quarterback. Alec Pierce, he also had a decent week, 5 catches, 80 yards. If you're okay with that risk, you could still potentially start him. But again, very, very difficult matchup this week against the Seahawks. But like he did in week 13 against Houston, that was a tough matchup. It just takes the one big play. So for me, for Alec Pierce, if you're facing the league juggernaut and you're like, well, I just need a 30-point week, someone like Alec Pierce could do that. There's also the potential he gets you just 5 points. Extremely risky option, but if you're okay with the risk, if you're facing a tough matchup, that's where I'd put him in my starting lineup. But if you're projected to win by quite a bit, you've got a safe volume guy on your bench, I would probably swap him in to leave Alec Pierce on the bench for this week to just see how they look. And then next week, they get a much more favorable matchup. I don't know if anyone was planning on sitting Jonathan Taylor. I certainly wouldn't. It is a tough matchup. He may be around this 11 to 15 point range. That's just unfortunately probably where he's going to end up, but he's still a must start given the volume he's going to see and the upside. We're going to do something unique for Tyler Warren we haven't done yet this video, and it's the matchup tab in the Walter Picks app, which shows every tight end the Seahawks have faced this season. You can see right now the Seahawks are 31st in the league against tight ends, and pretty much every week they have faced Trey McBride twice, but Cade Otton, Juwan Johnson, Dalton Schultz, Zach Ertz, Trey McBride again, Colby Parkinson, Gunnar Helm, Okonkwo. A lot of teams, even the not so good teams, have had good tight end performances against this team. Main reason being, it's really hard to get the ball to your wide receivers. So passing to the tight end certainly makes a lot of sense against this defense. So that's the benefit. But of course, there's the huge risk, like we saw in week 14, with the quarterback play, could be a big problem. But he still had 6 targets. I think personally, if I was facing a weaker team, like I'm the 1 seed, I'm facing the lowest seed, their team's just not nearly as good as me, I probably would bench Warren and play a safer tight end that I'm like, hey, he's going to give me 10 points. He's not going to get me 2. He's not going to get me 20, but I feel good about this performance. But if you're a risky team, if it's a close matchup, you're facing the juggernaut in your league, I certainly would play Warren and hope that he gets like 11 targets. That's in the realm of possibility. Obviously not what I'm predicting, but the possibility for him to have a huge week is there against the Seahawks because they're probably going to need to rely on him since it's going to be tough to get the ball to the wide receivers. Now it's time for the take of the week. And if you guys have been enjoying this video, make sure you hit that like and subscribe. And our take this week is that Michael Wilson is a sit. Someone who's been the wide receiver 1 2 times with Marvin Harrison Jr. out will be a sit even if Marvin Harrison Jr. misses this game. We look at the matchup against Houston. I don't care that he's dropped 33, 21, 37 points against Houston. Rashee Rice, 7.3 points. Wide receiver 1s against this team have been absolutely horrible. They've been absolute benches, and it doesn't matter how good they've been before. Michael Pittman, another great example of that, 2.3 points 2 weeks ago. You have to bench your wide receiver 1s against the Houston Texans.